The Master's Mysteries, Tales of Magical Mastery, Episode 19. Stumbling along the journey, Liao Fengyi and Old Dao finally arrived at the Funyu mountain range in the Central Plains region. Only upon reaching this place did Liao Fengyi realize the immense scale of the Funyu mountain range, with rolling hills spanning at least several hundred miles. What was odd though, Old Dao seemed quite familiar with the terrain, leading the way up front, and even taking Liao Fengyi up a steep cliff. "Master, isn't there another way we could go? Do you think I enjoy climbing?" Liao Fengyi found Old Dao's route a bit peculiar, but despite questioning, he couldn't figure out why. Old Dao just mentioned that he would understand once they reached the top. "All right, we're at the top now, spit it out." "Do I even need to say it? Can't you see it yourself?" Suppressing his frustrations, Liao Fengyi didn't dare to give up halfway and forced himself to continue climbing. Luckily, having lived amongst the mountains since childhood, this hardship didn't deter him. On the other hand, Old Dao was nearly dead tired, but the two finally managed to reach the mountaintop. "Look, this place is high ground." Liao Fengyi now understood. The Funyu mountain range indeed hid a basin, surrounded by cliff walls with a few villages and towns in the middle. Old Dao mentioned that the sphere of influence of the Bai Qian cult was also located here. The east and west both had valleys leading out, but both were controlled by the cultists. The villagers did communicate with the outside world, but the main passages were blocked by the people of the Bai Qian cult. No one inside could leave, and no one outside could come in. This area had become a forbidden zone. "Old Dao, you seem to be very familiar with this place. All right, let's find a way down the mountain. I have a knack for this." Old Dao was very familiar with this situation. Liao Fengyi noticed something was off early on, but this old fellow kept his mouth shut. Liao Fengyi had no way to deal with Old Dao's evasive character. The two followed a mountain path, walked through two forests, and kept heading downhill. But not far from them, within the dense forest, there had long been a shadow watching them. Seeing them descending the mountain, the person quickly disappeared deep into the forest. "Keep going 3 more miles, and there will be a small village." Old Dao chatted away about the local geography without noticing anything. However, Liao Fengyi had long noticed the person lurking in the shadows, but since the person didn't show themselves, he didn't take any action. "We'll find a place to stay for the night, then slaughter a chicken. We can have a good meal." Old Dao was right. Following the mountain road down, they could see a small village from afar, with pretty decent crop growth in the surrounding fields. But once they entered the village, Old Dao was immediately contradicted by his own words. The villagers were not hospitable at all, but rather glared at them with hostility. For some reason, the villagers seemed extremely hostile to outsiders, keeping their distance and glowering as if they were the bringers of plague. "Hello, little girl." It seemed the village children were not so guarded against outsiders. Seeing the two of them dressed strangely, the kids chattered away, trying to strike up a conversation. "Come back quickly. Haven't I told you not to approach strangers?" But unexpectedly, the child's mother stopped them halfway. From the sound of it, it was as if the two of them were contagious, warranting extreme caution. "Old Dao, is this their hospitality?" "No, it shouldn't be like this." The behavior of the villagers made Old Dao, who had always claimed to be quite influential in this area, very puzzled. "Let's go. I'll take you to another good place. It seems like finding shelter here is impossible." After grumbling a bit, Old Dao didn't give up. He turned around and led Liao Fengyi towards another mountain path. "The place is right ahead. When we get there, someone will surely treat us well." "Old Dao, where are we going exactly?" Old Dao seemed quite confident about the destination, praising it all the way like it was a place of immortality. "Old Dao, are you sure we'll be warmly received here?" "Why? Why is it like this?" Finally, they reached the place. But upon seeing it, Liao Fengyi's brows furrowed. This didn't look like a place of immortals at all. Old Dao's face also changed, with his mouth hanging open in surprise. Old Dao, are you sure we'll be warmly received here? Why? Why is it like this? When they finally arrived, Liao Fengyi's eyebrows knitted upon seeing the place. It didn't look like a place of immortals at all. Old Dao's face also changed, his mouth hanging open in surprise. How has it changed like this? In fact, it was a Taoist temple, which seemed to be quite large in scale, and the architecture quite imposing. It must have once been a grand temple housing dozens of people. But times had changed. This Taoist temple had been abandoned for who knows how many years, or perhaps suffered some natural disaster. The building was empty, the courtyard overgrown with weeds, windows and doors were broken and damaged, some even sealed up. It shouldn't be like this. Old Dao, you should finally explain what's going on. Liao Fengyi was unbothered, but Old Dao looked genuinely upset, yelling and trying to figure out what had happened. What is your connection with this temple? I used to be a monk here, but it shouldn't be like this. It was a thriving place. When Liao Fengyi asked again, Old Dao stopped hiding and admitted that he was originally from this Funyu mountain town and used to be a monk here. Hearing about the harm inflicted on Funyu town by the cult, he decided to find someone to help get rid of the cult. I never practiced diligently, always angering my master, yet he was always good to me. Old Dao tearfully recounted the past, while Liao Fengyi once again felt a pair of eyes from the darkness watching him and Old Dao. I never thought. Master, your disciple has returned too late. Old Dao. Seeing Old Dao still crying, Liao Fengyi patted him on the shoulder, which surprised Old Dao. The two had gotten along well, but as Old Dao was older, Liao Fengyi never behaved as if he were an elder. It's all right. Let me cry for a bit. Old Dao, someone has been watching us this whole time. Old Dao surprisingly stopped crying, turning around to see Liao Fengyi's face become serious. Ahu, it's up to you. Afraid that a strong reaction from Old Dao would alert the person hiding in the dark, Liao Fengyi held him back, simultaneously giving a command to Ahu without turning his head. Speaking of the person hiding in the dark, they had been observing Liao Fengyi and Old Dao from a distance since they entered the temple. They thought their hiding was impeccable. Suddenly hearing the rustling of the wild grass behind him, as soon as he turned his head, he saw a large rat with a red tuft of hair on its head, charging fiercely towards him. The rat was incredibly fast, its eyes flashing red. Before the person could react, the rat had already pounced in front of him. Stay away. Get lost. Hearing that Ahu had made a move, Liao Fengyi turned around. Indeed, he saw a not-so-tall young man stumbling out from behind a broken wall. Who are you? Daring to harm people from the shadows. Ahu, stop. At the moment, Ahu was still attacking the man, making the man quite miserable with his leaps and bounds, stopping only when Liao Fengyi commanded him. Speak. Are you a demon from the Bai Xian cult? Don't be presumptuous. Xiao Xia is only 10 years old. Uncle Zhang, is that you? I'm Xiao Xia. Old Dao was already in a bad mood. Seeing the man acting suspicious but seemingly harmless, he hastily charged up to him. Uncle Zhang, you've been gone for 15 years. I've grown up. Oh, right. It does look like Xiao Xia. Hearing what the young man said, Old Dao finally came to his senses. He'd been away for 15 years, and of course the child would have grown. Upon closer inspection, he really did resemble the Xiao Xia of his childhood. Roaming the world, subduing demons. Uncle Zhang, where have you been all these years? Subduing demons, of course. By the way, where's Master? Uncle, this isn't the place to talk. Come with me. With this recognition, Old Dao and the man burst into tears, reminiscing about old times. However, Xiao Xia looked around nervously, as if fearful of something. Xiao Xia, quick, what happened here? Uncle, listen to me. Xiao Sha looked around to make sure no one was there, then quickly led the two to a small hut in the back of the temple where miscellaneous items were stored. By this time, night was falling. Our temple was doing well, until a zombie earth immortal emerged after an earthquake 3 years ago. The three of them sat cross-legged in the hut. Xiao She began to recount the tribulations the temple had faced over the years. Unbelievably, it was also related to the Bai Qian cult. Later, the Bai Qian cult emerged. It turns out that since the emergence of the Bai Qian cult, few people have continued to worship the three purities. The temple's incense offerings dwindled, day-by-day life in the temple worsened, and many disciples left. In the end, only a dozen or so children who had grown up with their master remained in the temple. Fortunately, the temple still had a few acres of land, enough to support them. Apart from reciting scriptures, they spent their days repairing the temple that had been damaged in the earthquake. Ha ha ha. But one day, while everyone was working, they suddenly heard laughter coming from outside the temple, and the laughter sounded very malicious. There's no need to clean. Earth immortals are born, leading the world to ascend and become immortal. Everyone turned around to see a short old man walking up the mountain path, dressed like a wealthy gentleman, with a tall, muscular man following closely behind him, measuring over 2 meters in height. What use is this rundown temple of yours? This old man, with wrinkles all over his face, claimed to be from the Bai Qian cult and had come to the temple specifically to cause trouble. Using dark magic to harm people, you will pay the price sooner or later. Old Dao's master, who was also the head of the temple, had already recognized the malicious nature of the Bai Qian cult's practices. Unexpectedly, they had come to their doorstep. So naturally, the words were not polite. Pay the price. I haven't seen our price yet, but your price, on the other hand, has already arrived. The old man, though accompanied by only one person, showed no signs of weakness. He pulled out a small doll made of white cloth from his sleeve and then inserted a silver needle into the doll's head. Go and kill him. As soon as the silver needle was inserted, everyone noticed that the burly man who had been following the old man suddenly flashed with red light in his eyes and became filled with murderous intent. With the old man's command, the hulking man immediately sprang into action. He moved with incredible speed, like a ferocious beast, pouncing on the temple head. The temple head was already 90 years old and no match for this monster. He was struck directly, with the man's arm piercing through his chest, instantly ending his life. What? Master has been killed. You bunch of bastards. Old Dao heard Xiao She's account and his eyes turned bloodshot, his teeth grinding loudly. Why didn't the senior brothers seek revenge for our master? Killing those bastards. Old Dao, calm down. Liao Fengyi interrupted Xiao She's story before he could finish and tried to soothe his emotions. Uncle, listen to me. It's not just our master, even the senior brothers and uncles. Xiao She swallowed some saliva and continued his account. It turned out that it wasn't just the temple head who suffered. Hey, there's no need for you to live either. After killing the temple head, the old man took out numerous small dolls from his oversized clothing. Suddenly, shadows emerged from the surrounding woods, darting towards the temple. Everyone was petrified when they saw this. It turned out that the figures rushing out of the woods were actually rotten zombies, their eyes glowing red. These zombies were clearly under the control of the old man. They howled and charged into the temple, attacking anyone in their path, sucking blood and gnawing on flesh. Most of the dozen or so people left in the temple were not skilled in martial arts. Even if they were, they couldn't withstand the attacks of so many zombies. Soon, one by one, they met their demise. Xiao Sha had been sent down the mountain by the temple head to buy medicine that day, which allowed him to survive this calamity. Since then, the temple had fallen into ruin. Only Xiao Shab remained, hiding in the woods at the back of the temple, as he had nowhere else to go and was afraid of being discovered by the followers of the Bai Qian cult.